And it's an all-girl couch today. Yeah, we kicked the men out because you know what? Girls like to natter. And today I'm going to be nattering to Carrie Goodwin from Life is a Garden about what you should be doing in your garden when we go into this month that she likes, but I'm not that fond of, which is autumn.
Autumn is the best time to be in the garden. It's just alive with all these different colors. The leaves are starting to fall from the trees. The cosmos that you were saying on your walk is in full bloom. You can harvest all your summer veggies. So my tomatoes, I'm eating tomatoes off my bush.
By the way, this one does not believe in vegetables. Okay, she likes chocolate. She'll eat spinach as long as it's got like a chocolate coating on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just think it's a whole time of renewal and refreshing in your garden. It's a great time to go and actually prepare your soil for your winter gardens. And so it's time to just absorb it and see what's happening. You know, all your grasses are also in full blossom, so they're kind of blowing in the wind that we're starting to have now. And it's a time of change. And what was interesting for me is I heard the younger generation, they don't appreciate seasons as much as the older gardeners might.
Why?
I don't think, they're instant gratification. So if they like something, then they want it now, and they don't understand that it could only be ready in 3 or 4 months' time. Say like the bulbs, the hyacinth bulbs, beautiful, fragrant. You can plant them in a vase or in your garden. But so you're going to start seeing them in packaging now, but they don't understand that it's going to grow, and the season for them is a cool season. The primulas, the fairy primulas that you might be planting, you can go and buy them in your garden centers now, but they're actually only going to blossom probably in about 3-4 months.
August.
So, yeah. So it's the whole thing with gardening is having patience.
Having patience. People, you've got to be patient. You can't have everything yesterday, okay? Nature does its own thing. And I've had so many people come and say, I need some tomatoes. I'm like, well, you can't have them.
Yeah.
And they're like, why? And it's because it's not the right season. And you don't get it. I know we seasoned gardeners, excuse the pun, excellent. We understand that there's certain things that happen at certain times, that certain flowers will flower at certain times. And no, you can't have those. You can't have those poinsettias because they happen at Christmas.
Yes.
But everybody wants to get everything done yesterday, and that's not what gardening is about.
And I think that's what the joy of gardening is the seeing something grow through, or the surprise when you've planted something and then you actually get to see it blossom and you're like, oh, my goodness, look at this, it's gorgeous. And you kind of forgotten you planted it 3 months ago. I mean, that's one of my favorite, which people can start planting now, is the Namaqualand daisies. And there's a new variety or a new mixed packet out that's all beautiful pastel colors. It's got a few pinks in it even. And I'm thinking, wow, this is gorgeous. I can't wait to plant it. But literally when they start flowering, I would have forgotten that I'd planted them 3 months ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are easy, you just scatter them. So I think now is a time to look at your garden, start planning, and then start adding your extra compost, your mulch, your fertilizing. I want to say it's getting your garden ready for winter. So it is your fertilizing your flowering shrubs. So your camellias, your azaleas, your citrus. I've got lemons on my lemon tree. I'm so excited.
And the nice thing is that lemons, of course, that you can get 3 crops during the year, which is great.
Yeah. So they need a little bit of food. So it's a good time to feed before it gets too cold. But really just look at your garden and think, what do I want? Where? How can I plan it? But then also enjoy it, because your summer garden is looking incredible. We've had the most amazing rains. So even if we didn't know how to water or didn't know how to look after our plants are saying, check me out, I can look after myself perfectly well. I don't have a problem. And so your summer garden should be looking incredible. And I think that's what the joy is that don't rush it, like you said earlier. Just enjoy what it is at the moment, because in a month's time, it's going to be completely different. And it's whether you're involved or not, it's still going to be completely different. And that's what gardening is all about.
But it's, as you say, it's a good time to be sitting there and thinking, right, now get everything ready for winter.
Yes.
But don't take everything out. I know that people are already wanting to pull out all of their summer annuals because they want to get the winter annuals in. It is too hot at the moment. We're sitting in the middle of March. It is too hot.
Yeah.
It is definitely nowhere near time to be planting bulbs. I know that everybody's like going, oh, I've got my bulbs. When do I plant them? I'm like, when it's too cold to keep your butt on the ground, that's when you plant them.
Yeah.
But it is a time of, like, when you go out and walk, and I keep saying to everybody, walking is one of the best things you can do. And walking in nature instead of walking on a treadmill in a gym is actually a better way to go as well. And the autumn curb flowers. the cosmos, is just looking absolutely fantastic. I know Jeremy's just come back from the Eastern Cape, and they're fields of cosmos, and they're a bit early this year, which is quite strange.
Yeah, because they're normally at their prime, I would have said, towards the end of April.
Yeah.
And, when we used to go riding in the Delta, that's when you see them and you just think, this is gorgeous.
But there are still bumper crops coming. I was looking at them and walking through them like the last couple of weeks I've been walking through them and thinking, no, it's not quite full enough. But I mean, everybody says, where does the cosmos come from? And I read somewhere online that somebody turned around and said, well, we actually see them as now an indigenous plant. No, they're not. They're from Mexico, okay? Everybody says, where did they come from? They come from South America. And how did they get here? Do you know how?
I would have thought they're in the teff bales or something like that, yeah.
Food. During the Boer War, when they brought feed over, I don't know why they brought feed from South America to feed the British horses.
Yeah.
It was a very strange thing to do. But of course, it was all on the carts. And as the carts were going along and bouncing along roads, all the seeds of the cosmos, which had been in the grass, then fell out on the sides of the road. And that's why we have cosmos growing.
Yeah.
But you can get normal garden
Cosmos, yeah.
Cosmos.
You can plant it. So this would be an interesting fact, is that actually people see it now, then they'll come into the garden center and say, we see the cosmos, can we plant it? And we're like, no. You should have bought those seeds last year, September, October.
Yeah.
So gardening is about planning and thinking a little bit ahead so you can have the beauty when you want it. And I think that's the challenge for the younger generation, is that whole planning and learning how your garden grows. I think it's frustrating for us, equally frustrating for the customers, because they want that cosmos in their garden and to look beautiful on their verges. And we're like, no, we'll rather plant the Namaqualand daisies now, so you get that bright yellows and oranges and pinks, at the maybe August, that time, early spring, and then you can plant the cosmos. So it's the seasons. And I think it's important that, when I heard that the younger generation didn't appreciate seasons so much, I'm like, what? Seasons are the best thing. They teach us all about nature, and it's nature talking back to us and saying, look at me, I'm losing my leaves now. It's a sign of protection. I'm looking after myself. And I think it's lessons that we can learn from nature.
I don't see anything good about winter, though. I don't like the cold. But no, when it comes to plants, we keep on talking about younger people, like the millennials and your up-and-coming Gen Zs or whatever, Gen Z, Gen I, Gen. They don't really have gardens. They have indoor plants. And that's become like a really huge thing, hasn't it?
It is just growing incredibly. The number of indoor plants that people are actually buying now. And it was interesting, I was watching a video recently on the carbon footprint of indoor plants. So it's how many the producers produce, what it takes to produce them, and then how they go to the younger generation. But maybe they don't always go to the younger generation with information. And so they might not have the lifespan that they should have to be able to become completely carbon neutral. Because in theory, most of your plants should be carbon neutral, if not even better at carbon sequestration. So now when you're starting to think, okay, well, if you throw that plant away too quickly, it hasn't fulfilled its job, but you didn't look after it properly. So I think when you're talking about indoor plants and the younger generation, they should actually ask for the information. Go to your local garden center and say, I really need a plant for this space. Can you tell me which one it is? I know even I love gardening, and I have now 22 indoor plants in my house, which I think is amazing. But I tried those Calathea because everybody said, Calathea, they're so beautiful.
Even
and
I
you
can't
have
keep
to,
them going.
Yes, and you have to have them here. They've joined me in my shower because that's where they grow the best.
It's amazing. The bathroom in my house has become like the plant hospital. That's where all of those plants that my children have come to be fixed by me because, as you say, they don't look after the plants. Plants need water. Then they also sometimes need some food. And I have this thing that if you don't give them food and water, I'm going to put you in a corner and not feed or water you for days either and see how you deal with it. But that is the thing. That's what's so wonderful about Life is a Garden. And it's an online resource, and it's very South African based.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Anything that you need to know about any plants, indoor or outdoor, in South Africa, you can go on to lifeisagarden.coza. and have a look and find all the information, especially about every single month, what you should be doing in which area of the country you are. It's one of the best resources going.
Yeah, and it's nice because they've also got kids' activities. So, when you start going into school holidays now, there's a lot of activities that you can do with your kids, whether it be indoors or outdoors, or experiments that are fun. And it's to get the whole family involved in gardening, because I don't think it's a singular activity. Everyone should be involved.
Yes, and grannies?
Yes, of course.
You must get out there and go and teach the younger generation. I have this thing that every child should know how to grow their own food.
Yes, very
Where
important.
Where it comes from, at least. This is a plant. This is how it grows. This is what it needs. This is what you can do with it. This is what you can eat. And that is exciting for kids, and they kind of lose it somewhere along the line. So please get involved, okay?
Yeah.
Make I keep saying this, the entire world should be just one big food garden.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if you have a very small space, if it's just a pot that you're growing some spinach in, maybe some calendula now into winter, because it's you can eat the flowers. So, that companion planting is also really important for kids, because I think sometimes, my favorite for the spinach is the bright lights, because it's got yellow stems and red stems.
Yes.
So if you don't quite like the green foliage of the actual spinach plant itself, at least it's got funky stems.
Okay, you do know that that's one of those things that you have to eat.
Yeah, very seldom.
I love spinach. How can you not like spinach? It's so fabulous.
It's there in
With
my
peanut
fridge.
butter. Put it with a little bit of peanut butter.
That I'm going to try, but it normally ends up in the worm bin. The worms probably enjoy it much more. It's like a steak for worms, whereas like for me, it's like Brussels sprouts. It's just on that downward scale.
You'd never think she has a doctorate in gardening, hey? Who doesn't want to eat the stuff. So Carrie, that website, of course, lifeisagarden.co.za.
Yeah.
And of course, you can also send questions into there, and we will answer. And you can send questions to us here. If there's anything I don't know, she's always like my right hand, my head garden girl. So if I have something I can't answer, I always get hold of her and say, what's the answer to this?
Yeah. No, and I think I just love gardening. The more we can get people, as you say, to plant plants and have them have a food garden, which any space they can, that would be the best thing. Because then everyone is sustainable. They don't have to worry.
There we go.
Yeah.
People.
And we're doing our bit for the environment.
Get out there. Get busy. Get your hands dirty. It's lovely to play in the mud. And no, we're not talking about mud wrestling. Hey? We'll leave that to Jeremy and the boys. Thanks so much, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll catch you again next week.
Yeah.
Take care.